Hey guys, I have gotten quite a few questions about the challenge, specifically on how to set calorie and protein requirements. Um, and before I dive really deep into that, I want to briefly talk about why I chose calories and protein specifically to follow. I did say in the instructions, if you have a nutrition program that you really love and you're getting great results and you're enjoying it, feel free to stick with it, and just be consistent throughout the month and mark those days off based on your nutrition program. But if you're someone who's not following a nutrition program, getting a baseline of calories and protein is an amazing way to start and get a very good baseline of where you are at. I went through this years ago when I really started diving deeper into matching my nutrition with my training. And it was a pretty amazing learning experience for me. So I'm trying to bring that same experience to you. So I really want this next month to be a very good learning experience for you. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you a very good baseline. So when people come to me, there's always, everybody has a goal. And whether it's fat loss, body recomposition, you want to gain muscle, whatever that is, everybody has some type of goal. And then the question that gets brought up is, okay, if my goal is to lose 15 pounds, how much should I be eating? And, this is for a whole nother topic, like a whole nother conversation, but there's so much that goes into calories. And your maintenance or fat loss calories are always going to be continuously changing. We're human beings. We're not static. We adapt. We change how much we eat. We change our environment. We change how much we move. All of these things change. And with that, our caloric requirement is always going to be adapting and changing to our environment. But this month is really going to give you an amazing baseline as to where you are at right now. And you can take this information and then figure out what's going to be your next steps. So if someone comes to me and they say, I want to lose weight, and they track their calories and they're consistently eating 8 to 1,000 calories a day, that person is not primed and ready to go into a fat loss phase. There is nowhere for that person to go. I am never going to be somebody who's going to slash calories down to 600 just to get somebody a result. That's not healthy. So really what that person should be doing is slowly trying to increase their calories and increase their ability to maintain their weight at a higher caloric requirement. So if you you go through this entire month and you are a chronic undereater, a reverse diet and trying to slowly introduce more calories is probably a really good option for you. On the flip side, if you go through this month and you're consistently consuming 2,500 calories a day and you're maintaining your weight and you decide that you want to lose fat, go for it. You are in a very prime and a very good situation to drop some calories and lose fat. If you can maintain at that high caloric requirement, that's amazing. Use it to your advantage. You are primed and ready to go into a fat loss phase. So, how much you should be eating is going to depend on a lot of different factors. Now why I chose protein. Every single person that I've trained undereats in some aspect in protein. And I have a whole video on protein. I'll try to find it and link it or put it back in the group so you can rewatch that. But protein is essential, especially for women who we have a tendency to want to lose muscle mass and lose bone density. So we want to do everything we possibly can to keep our muscle mass, to keep building and building and building. And protein is going to be the building blocks to keeping that muscle, keeping your bone density. So really protein is its highest satiety. So you're going to be fuller longer. You're going to be able to build muscle easier. So it's a super important macronutrient for hormones. Honestly, across the board. Undereating in protein has a lot more effects, so we want to make sure that we always are getting enough protein in. So how do you know where to set your calories? So this is a very good baseline. So take this. This is not like the say all be all. This is not like 100% this is your maintenance or this is your fat loss calories. This is just a very good starting point for a majority of people to get an idea of where they're at. So play around with this number a little bit. Don't feel like you're so rigid and so stuck to this number if it's not working. So if your goal is fat loss, so if you're specifically for this month, you want to lose fat, you would want to take your goal body weight. I'm going to talk about this in a second, what that means, but you would want to take your goal body weight and multiply it by 12. And then if your goal is to maintain, you would want to take your goal body weight, which could very much be where you're at right now, and multiply that by 14. And that's going to give you your maintenance calories. Like I said, very good baseline. But when I say goal weight, I've had people come to me and said like, oh, this is what I weighed in high school, so I want to weigh this. No. So it is not what you weighed in high school. It is not what you weighed in, in your college years, or, if you've had children, if you've gone through menopause, don't set unrealistic expectations with yourself. That's just my point. So your goal, when you're thinking about your goal weight, I want you to think about a few things. One, I want you to think about a time that you were the most confident in your life. And the second thing that goes along with this is when you felt your strongest. So I have a period in my life where I was my lowest weight. I wouldn't say I was unconfident. I mean, I was fine. But I was not strong. I was eating a 1,200 calorie diet. I couldn't live my life. I felt like I couldn't have pizza with my kids, and it wasn't an enjoyable place for me. So to me, I see that weight, that's not my goal weight. So in your goal weight, I want you to think about when you are your most confident, your strongest, and also where you feel like where it's the most sustainable. So if you're somebody who, whether you have kids or you like to go get drinks with your friends, or you like to go out to dinner with a significant other, like you like to just live your life and do all of those things, you want to pick a weight that that you can still enjoy those things while still maintaining your weight. You don't want to be so stuck to such low calories that you feel like you can't just go out and enjoy yourself once in a while. So when I say goal weight, I say that very cautiously, and I do not just throw out a number. Spend some time, actually think about it. Think about a time in your life when those three things all lined up, and maybe they haven't yet. So maybe you shoot a little bit, if your goal is fat loss, maybe you shoot a little bit higher than what you think your goal weight is. See what that feels like, and then go from there. So you don't want to go from, A to Z fast, so fast. So that's kind of where I want to talk about your goal weight. So now that you have your calories set, in order to figure out your protein, you would want to do 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So the one thing I will say about protein is a lot of people, I'll give that number and it's like, whoa, I was eating 60 grams of protein and you just told me to eat 120 grams of protein. And that's a time where it's like, okay, we are not jumping up that much protein. You're going to make small incremental steps. So if you find that, so you could set that goal. Maybe week 1, you see where you're at with that. Or take the weekend, track your protein, see where you're at, and then go from there. And maybe throughout the month, you slowly try to increase 20 grams of protein every week. So maybe that becomes one of your goals. Is, you're eating 60 grams week 1, week 2 every day you want to eat 80 grams, week 3 try to get 100, or maybe you go up by 10, whatever works for you. So maybe you just slowly, incrementally, increase how much protein you're eating. So really that's a good way of figuring out how many calories you should be eating and how much protein. Like I said, baseline, there's so much more that goes into it. I mean, so much more. But this will give you a good idea to get you off and running. And I want you to learn throughout the process. I want you to really pay attention to what's working, what's not working. And at the end of the month, if you find that, out of 30 days or whatever, you ate that 25 days perfectly and you lost weight, that you can take that and now you know where to go. Now you know what your next steps can be. So understanding how much you're consuming and how your protein and your calories affect your body recomposition, how they affect your training. And on the other side, if you are eating those calories and you feel like crap during your workouts and you're just not feeling great, maybe you need to bump those up a little bit. That's fine. Bump them up, see what happens. So I really want you to take this, run with it, learn from it. Like I said, I did it years ago. It was so beneficial for me. Really, honestly, it was a huge eye opener for me. And a lot of my clients, when I take them through, whether increasing or decreasing their calories and making them track their food, they're like, whoa, I didn't realize how many carbs I ate, or I didn't realize how much fat I ate, or I didn't realize how little protein I ate. So this is just a really, really good challenge and a way to find a way to be consistent with the diet, because that's the biggest thing. It's the biggest thing I struggle with. You know, I pick a nutrition plan, or I put myself on a nutrition plan, and then like 2 weeks in, I'm like, it's a Saturday, and then I'm like, oh, you know, and I go off. So really figuring out how to be consistent with that, and then see what happens to your body at the end of it. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the group. I'm happy to answer them. And I hope this was helpful. And thank you again so much for joining me.